The boy looks up and realizes his head is gone, raises his hands and sees that they're gone too, terrified. He ran to his room and took off his bathrobe only to see nothing in the mirror. Mike then realized that he had the power of invisibility. He was so excited that the first thing he did was strip naked and go to the women's locker room. He was mesmerized by the sights he saw before him, but while he was mesmerized, a towel suddenly flew over his head. The girl soon realized that there was a man under the towel and gathered around him. At that moment, Mike was so nervous that he showed his true form. It's all over now. After this incident, Mike's reputation as a hooligan was completely established. His mother was speechless at his behavior. Luckily, the school was merciful and didn't expel him, but also invited a psychiatrist to counsel the students on adolescent mental health. Back home, Mike's powers reappeared, only to be discovered by his sister. After his sister promised to keep his secret, Mike told her the whole story. So how did he get his powers? A few days ago, there was a Halloween party at school. Mike took out his allowance for a few years to buy a Spider-Man outfit to show off in front of the goddess, but the store was closed. So Mike had to go back to school, but while he was in the bathroom, the school bully duo robbed him of his money. Not only that, but they kept shooting at Mike with paintball guns, making him look bad. Back home, Mike found the only $20 he had left and couldn't buy the Spider-Man suit, so he went to a thrift store. The owner recommended a mandrill uniform and said mysteriously that it had special powers. Of course Mike didn't believe him, but it was the only thing he could afford with his $20. That night, Mike wore the uniform to the party, and to his surprise, the goddess greeted him and complimented him on his clothes. Mike was so happy that he didn't realize that something was wrong. He saw a video of him taking pictures of the goddess on the TV. The goddess turned off the TV and asked who did it. The school bully pointed to Mike in the distance and said he copied it from his cell phone. In such a scene of social death, Mike of course ran and hid in the bathroom in a panic, looking at himself in the mirror. Mike shouted in despair, "Let me disappear." As soon as he said that, a thunderbolt exploded outside the window and the surrounding area was plunged into darkness. Mike really disappeared, but he escaped through a window, but what he didn't expect was that he woke up the next day and his dream had come true. He had become a transparent person. Was it really the mandrill's uniform? So that no one would notice. Mike wrapped himself up tightly and came to school. Looking at his disappearing arm, he was worried about what to do when he saw the school bully loading a paintball gun into his bag. He had a great idea. It turns out the boy is invisible. Now he's going to use this power to take revenge. He picked up the school bully's paintball gun and thumped it at the teacher who was writing on the board. Then he quickly threw the gun to the school bully. The frame-up was successful. The bully gets his parents called, suspended for a week, and his father beats the crap out of him. Then Mike found another bully. He was in the middle of a tennis match, and not only did he lose the match, but he was scared to death in the lounge after Mike messed with him, with his anger out of his system. Mike felt refreshed. What else could he do with his invisibility? He snuck into the teacher's office, found his monthly exam, opened the drawer, took out the answers, and started copying. When the results came out, his mom was shocked that her son, who was always in the bottom half of the exams, was in the top half of the exams with the power of invisibility. Mike was completely free. That day he skipped school and read comics at home when his mom suddenly came home and he stripped naked. When Mom came in, all she saw were shoes and socks. When the phone rang, it was his grandmother. Mom thought Michael wasn't home. But she accidentally told her a secret. It turned out that Mike wasn't her son. He was adopted. When he found out the news, Mike was so upset that he took his dog out for a walk, but he accidentally stumbled upon his goddess being kidnapped by a man in black. He immediately rushed to the scene, but his small body was no match for the man in black. In the end, the goddess was not saved and he was knocked to the ground. Mike rushed home to find his suit and use his superpower to rescue his goddess. But his mom washed the suit and had lost its invisibility. Mike was so depressed that he went to the beach to vent his feelings. Then a blind man came up behind him and said, "I'm your father." He turned out to be Mike's real father. He told Mike that the reason for your invisibility was not because of the suit, but because you were born with it. Then he revealed a shocking secret. Many people lost their lives and many were infected with diseases. But they were genetically mutated and awakened their superpowers. They were captured by a mysterious organization and locked up in a lab for research to turn them into tools of war. Mike's father was one of them, and his power was to read minds. As the experiments progressed, a downside soon emerged. As the experiments continued to drain the bodies of the psychics, they became weaker and weaker. And some of them died outright, and Mike's father gradually lost his eyesight. It was here that Michael's father and mother met and fell in love and gave birth to Michael. The couple fought to get Mike out of the prison so he wouldn't become an experiment. During the escape, his mother was shot, but his father escaped with Mike in order to hide Michael's identity. His father put him in front of a woman's house, who is now Michael's adoptive mother. Through his mind-reading skills, he knew that this woman was kind and wanted to have a child. After all this, his father took out a suit of armor and handed it to Michael, saying it was his mother's. It turned out that Michael's invisibility was inherited from his mother, and this suit would allow him to utilize his invisibility skills even better. His father also told Mike that the people who took his goddess were from the organization, in order to find Michael. They kept capturing children for testing. Now the goddess and the other children were being held on a ship. That night, Michael used his invisibility to sneak into the ship and rescue the goddess and the other 2 children, but just as they were about to leave, the goddess said that an old man was also being held here. And she asked Mac to rescue him as well. They found the room where the old man was being held, but when they entered the room, the door was immediately locked and the goddess suddenly turned against them. This is a 2014 sci-fi film called The Invisible Boy. Do well to watch it if you finds it interesting. Highly recommended.